Hello everyone and good evening, all of you that are joining us online. My name is Maria Jammal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Humanity Crew, and today I'm going to share with you my story. So I'm going to start by telling you, who am I? I'm here because in 2019 I was very honored to be receiving an award from the Princess of Girona Foundation, the first international award. In 2019 there was the celebration, the 10-year anniversary of the Princess of Girona Foundation, and they usually award for Spanish people awards for exceptional work in science, social work, business, and arts. And for the first time, for their 10-year anniversary, they decided to open the award internationally for a global prize for global work. And I was very honored to receive this award. So this is why I'm here today talking to you. But I would love to share with you a little bit more on who I am, my story, and what brought me here. So I was born in Minsk, in Belarus. My mother is Russian Ukrainian, my father is Palestinian, and we live in Israel. So my identity and my nationality, you can say, is a little bit complicated. I was born into a place with a lot of struggle. I was born in a minority. I was born Christian, a woman, so I'm a minority within a minority within a minority. So I was born into struggle. I was taught since I was really young that I needed to struggle for my rights. I needed to struggle to succeed, to get a proper education, to get a job. It was not easy growing up as a Palestinian in Israel, and but also my difficulty, the things that identified me and my differences made me who I am today. So actually, I was very unique when I was young. I look Russian. I'm blonde with freckles. I was very outside of the normal view in the Palestinian community. So I always felt a little bit strange, a little bit odd, and I stood out without even meaning to stand out. And it was later in my when I grew up that I understood that what made me different was what was actually made me stronger, what was actually giving me the drive to do better, to do something different, and I wanted to stand out. I wanted to stand out even more. So I belong to the Palestinian community, a community that is scattered all over the world, that has been struggling for many, many years. I grew up with with family members all over the world that are being refugees in different areas around the world, and it affected me. It affected my childhood. I had to, I was growing up in youth movement, in political movement. I was very active. My family was very active. So this is the environment I grew up into. Then later, when I finished my school, I had to go to the university. I decided that I wanted to study law. Not because I really enjoyed it, but for us it was, if you were a Palestinian, you would either be a doctor or a lawyer. We didn't have really many options. I didn't know, no one really taught me in school that there are many topics and I can be whatever I want, and I can be a scientist and I can be many different things. These are the options that I knew. So I decided to study law. I really enjoyed it. And I also wanted to do something else, to add something else to it. I didn't feel it was enough for me. I wanted to stand out. So I studied psychology together with law. I did a double degree, and that also wasn't enough. I was very interested in how human behavior affects law, and how law affects human behavior, and how these two subjects correlate. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to go outside of the country. So I looked for different scholarships. I won the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. I went to Brussels and studied European law. And suddenly I am outside of the country, meeting different people. I grew up thinking that the Palestinian cause was the most important cause in the world, that everyone knows about it, that it's the center of the universe. And then, I met international people from different backgrounds. I met Turkish and I met Kurdish, and I heard the discourses between them and the arguments. And I finally realized that, okay, we're not the most important people alive, and there are other struggles, other problems around the world, and it made you really wonder and think and value the place you are, you're coming from, and the struggles you go through in your life. And then, a few years later, I got married. I studied, I did a master's degree in George Washington University. I continued to study law. I did a master's in IP law, which is patents, trademarks, copyrights. I was very interested in that. And also I was volunteering in different organizations, on the board of several organizations, youth movements, Palestinian rights organizations, women organizations. It was something I wanted to do besides my day-to-day work as a lawyer. And around that time, I was also introduced more and more to the refugees. And around that time, there was the war in Syria. And we were seeing, hundreds and thousands of refugees, of Syrians arriving to Europe and seeking refuge. And for me, it was something very close to me because, we are a community of, the Palestinians are, refugees scattered all around the world, and it's something that I really relate to. So I want to tell you a little bit, what does it mean to be a refugee? What are the refugees? When I was working on the presentation, I was looking at all the presentations that are previously made, and I found this presentation that I did in 2019. Now, refugees are people who are forced to leave their country. They cross borders to leave to other countries seeking for safety. They escape war, persecution, climate crisis even, to look for safety and security for themselves and their families. And in 2016, there were 65 million displaced people around the world, 65 million. Now, displaced people are people who are either refugees, meaning they are displaced outside of their countries and they receive asylum, they have the right to seek refuge, and also people who are internally displaced in their country, but they had to leave their house and they have to leave their cities and homes. This was in 2016. Today, and I was also shocked to learn this new number when I was looking for the updated statistics. Today, in 2022, there are 100 million displaced people around the world. This is a huge, huge number. This is not a problem that happened with the refugees in 1948 and 67 and afterwards. This is happening today. Every day there are huge numbers of people leaving their houses seeking for security in other countries. This year we have the war in Ukraine, we have wars in Afghanistan, in many places around the world. This is a topic that is relevant today. It's relevant for you and for me and you and all of you watching. This is something that is happening as we speak in our modern world, in our 2022, where we have the most advanced technology in the world, economic prosperity and so on. And this is happening in front of us. If we look at the trends of the refugees in these years, in 10 years ago, in 2012, there were 42 million refugees. And today, 10 years after, in 2022, there are 100 million refugees. If you're probably in Spain, if you're following the foundation. So in Spain, the population of Spain is 47 million. So we're talking about twice the size of the population of Spain is outside of their house, displaced around the world, which is a horrific number. So, 2011, the war in Syria. I remember it very, very well. I was sitting at home every day, we were hearing news, what's happening in Syria, the bombing in Syria, people fleeing, a lot of numbers. We were seeing in the news how people are crossing the borders, and really terrible news. And I felt it was a period where we felt so depressed and sad over the situation because, Syria is just across the border from us. Many of them are also Palestinians who are refugees there. It's people who come from the same community, from the same culture and background, they speak the same language. And I was watching it and witnessing it in 2011, and I couldn't believe this was happening. And, we were all frustrated by this situation. And for me, one day I saw this photo. You probably remember this photo. This is Alan Kurdi. We saw his. This is a small kid that the media showed his photo when he was on the shore, on the beach, lying on the beach with no pulse, and it was a horrific story. It was a horrific, refugees, 100 million refugees, but each and every one of them has a name. Each and every one of them has a horrific story behind his journey, and this was one of them. For me, when I saw this, I said, okay, I couldn't take it anymore. This is something that I have to do something. I cannot stand by and just keep watching it. I had to do something. I wanted to help. I wasn't sure how. And then my partner and I decided that we want to go to Lesbos to volunteer, because at that time, many refugees were escaping Syria, going to Turkey, and then crossing the borders through the sea to Greece and seeking asylum there. So we decided, we heard in the news that a lot of volunteers were going to Lesbos. It's a Greek island very close to Turkish, very close to the Turkish shores. It's across of Izmir. And we decided we wanted to go and volunteer. So if you look at the route that the refugees go through, you see Syria, Syria over here, and then refugees, they leave Syria, they go to neighboring countries, which are Lebanon, Jordan, and Turkey. And then in Turkey, they have, usually they want to escape Turkey. Many of them want to reach, most of them want to reach Europe at the end. And Europe was very welcoming at that time and really inviting refugees to come over. They didn't expect for them to come in these huge numbers. But refugees who arrive from Syria in Turkey, they also live in a very poor, very bad conditions in Turkey, and they want to flee from Turkey. So they make a deal with smugglers who are basically mafias, okay, that take money, a lot of money from refugees to help them or make them cross the border to Greece. Around that time, each refugee pay about 1,500 to 2,000, sometimes even more, euros per person to cross. And you can imagine people who have almost no belongings, who left their house after it has been bombed. They might have taken some stuff, some gold, some money that they have left. They go to Turkey, and then people like the smugglers, they take advantage of the situation. They ask for a lot of money to make them cross. They even promise them, insurance, and they promise them a safe journey and all sorts of things. And I saw it not only, people told me this, but I also saw it on Facebook pages, and smugglers were advertising it as if it's a company that is selling tickets for a cruise somewhere. It was a really difficult and ridiculous deals with the smugglers. But the refugees, they didn't have any choice. For them, it was escaping for their life, escaping for the lives of their children. No one really wanted to leave. No one really wants to take their children in the middle of the night and leave their country. They had to do it. They had to cross. I remember one time a woman told me that if where we were wasn't a hell, we would never have left and endangered our kids and our families to do it. And I trust that this is what's really was happening, because we've seen the horrific stories, and they know how difficult it is, these conditions are, and these deals with the smugglers are. So these refugees, they come from Turkey to the Greek islands, and then from these Greek islands they take shuttles and cross to Athens, and then move and find their way to whatever country they want to get to and seek asylum. These are one of the boats, the dinghy boats, that the refugees use to cross the sea. This is a rubber boat. This should contain, I think, no more than 20 people. In this case, you see 60 or 80 people here. Maybe you cannot see it in the photo, but here you have the man usually sitting on the side of the boat, you see? And then in the middle of the boat, really like tens of women and children and all the bags and everything, all the stuff and their belonging are in the middle of the boat. This looks like, you know, people are waving, it looks like a good ride, but it also has a lot of dangers to it because this boat is very, very heavy, it's overloaded. The smuggler usually come in with them on the boat, they start moving and then he leaves them. He sometimes threatens them, you know, with a gun or with a knife. He threatens them, makes them throw their bags into the water. He takes the water, then a jet ski comes and take him and all the belongings, and they're left alone in the middle of the sea. And the only way to drive this thing is an engine that is in the back of this thing, okay, that is too small for this size of the boat and for this weight. And the way to function it is if you take it left, it goes right, and right, it goes left, or something like that. It has a little fuel in it, so if the fuel is done, is finished, or if the machine is broken, or if there's a little bit of waves, you can imagine, see how low the boat is, it can get, it can drown very, very easily. So these boats are very, very, very risky. You know, millions of people have crossed the sea with these boats, and you know, thousands have drowned doing that. This is another boat that came in a little bit later. When I first learned about it, someone told me we came in a yacht. Now, for me, yacht is something that, you know, I heard and I see in the port, you know, here, not far away in Barcelona, I see a port and yachts. This is not what I imagined when people told me they came in yachts. So the way this boat works is that the smugglers, they empty everything inside, all the tables, all the stuff, all the equipment of the boat, they empty it, and then they fill it with people. And as you can see, this boat is drowning. Okay, you can see the water coming in from the windows. There's too many people on that boat. And the problem with that boat, with that ship, is that you need a port, okay, to park it. Because what happens is that if you reach the shore, it will hit the bottom of the water and it will collapse. And this is what happens to 99% of the cases if there was no rescue missions there. Proactiva Open Arms is a Spanish lifeguard company that did most of the sea rescue here. They saved millions of people. Otherwise, these people would have definitely drowned. Many of them did, unfortunately, because it's a very, very risky boat and a very risky ride. And this is the reality of the refugees after they arrive. Okay, this is a refugee camp. You can see it's only tents. There's no electricity, no facilities, no toilet, no food, nothing, no services. Just people who came in with their stuff and sleep outside. Okay, this is one camp. Other camps look differently, but this is the type of camp that can show you really how insecure, how scared, how unsafe these refugees feel when they come here. This is a photo of Ahmed. Now I'm going to tell you the story of Ahmed. Before you get worried, Ahmed is okay and safe, and I will tell you his story. In October 28, in 2015, this boat that I just showed you, the yacht, okay, a boat just a little bit bigger than this one, had over 350 people on it. And it came to the shore. It was 2 floors. The second floor collapsed, and all the boats started sinking in the middle of the sea. They found about 250 people survived. Many people didn't survive, unfortunately, because it was in the middle of the sea. There was hardly any rescue possibilities. The Greek Coast Guard arrived only a few hours later. So Ahmed is a Syrian boy, he's 15, and he left, his family and him left Syria and sought safety. They went through Turkey, they crossed the sea from Turkey to Greece, and he was found in this boat. He was rescued by Nikos from Proactiva Open Arms, as you can see in the photo. And my partner, when we were sitting after we finished our mission and we were talking, he saw this photo Okay, and he was telling, oh, this is a successful CPR that I did, and this boy survived. And I was telling him, okay, this is Ahmad. And he was surprised because he didn't know his name. It was, for him, it was hundreds and thousands of people that had to, that went by him, that he had to medically check. So I was telling him, Ahmad, I met Ahmad in the pediatric department just after this accident. And Ahmad had no reaction. I went to the pediatric department to see what I can help. There were about like 14, 15 children in the pediatric department. I was trying to talk to them, to understand their nationality. I made a database of the missing, of these children, so we can look for their parents, their families. I wrote down what they were wearing, how they look like, what language they speak for the older kids that can speak, so that we can easily locate their parents. But for Ahmad, for about 2 days, he didn't react at all. He didn't respond. He was like this, lying in bed. When the nurses wanted to give him medication in his arms, he didn't cry, he didn't, get scared from the needle, nothing. When he wanted to sleep, the nurses closed his eyes for him to sleep. He didn't react, and it was very strange to me because I didn't understand his situation. Next day, I brought him like toys, and I tried to make him laugh. There was no reaction from him, and it was very odd to me. So the database that I made helped bringing his mother after 2 days, helped bring his mother to the hospital. And to be honest, this was one of my happiest moments when I saw the woman, the mother, coming into the room, and the little boy starting to react, and it was a very emotional and very happy story. I've seen a lot of situations, a lot of death, a lot of really sad stories, and these are really the bright sides of these stories, that I get to see this unification of the mother and how she was happy that her boy was alive. This is Ahmad. When his mother came, she was a little bit injured. I told her, you go, do your checks. I'm staying with him. I will take care of him. Don't worry. And I took him by hand. He went off the bed. He started reacting a little bit after he seen his mom. And we were walking in the pediatric department. And he walked me. I was holding his hand. He went to the glass exit door at the end of the hall. And through the glass, you can see the lights of the city. And he put his hand on the glass door. And the first few words that he said in these days, he said, "أنا بدي أروح على البيت. I want to go home." And when I was telling this story, my partner, I saw him, he froze. He started crying from the story. Because, we did many things. When we volunteered there the first time, we didn't know what to do. We were helping in whatever we could. But our biggest asset was that we were able to speak language. And most of the refugees at that time were Syrian or Iraqi and Arabic speakers. So we were able to do something that most of the volunteers and aid workers in the island couldn't. We were able to communicate with them. We were able to comfort women who lost kids, people in the hospital that are lost and have no idea what's going on with them, people who need assistance with documents. We really supported them, encouraged them, visited them every day. And this was our strength, that we really understand, we as Palestinians also understand what these refugees are going through. We understand the mentality, we understand the culture of the refugees. So for us, it was really a natural thing to do. And this is what we did. We didn't come prepared for this. We had no idea what we were going to do. And this is what we did. And then one day after this huge accident, my partner, unfortunately, seen a lot of people, dying and drowning. And it was very, very difficult for him, for everyone on that island. Everyone remembers this day until now on that island. And he came to me afterwards. We were both volunteering in 2 different places. And he came to me after 1 month that I haven't seen him or talked to him. And he told me, okay, Maria, we have to go home. I'm too tired. I cannot take it anymore. I'm starting to seeing things and hallucinating. We need to go back home. We need to have some rest. And I told him, but how can I leave? How can I leave Ahmad? How can I leave all these people? How can I leave the mother that lost 2 children and I was comforting her? I couldn't leave. I couldn't go back now and continue working in the office and doing my work. I could never see myself doing that again. So he promised me. He said, okay, we're coming back home. and we're bringing a team with us. We need to build something that is stronger than you and me, because even if we stay, okay, 2 more days, 1 more week, 1 more month, eventually we cannot just do it, you and me, and we cannot stay here forever. We needed to have, an army of people that can come here and help. And at that time, all of my friends were asking, how can we help? What we can do? People who saw our posts on social media, they wanted to help, they wanted to volunteer. And we said, okay, we're going back, we're going to prepare something that is very organized. We're going to train people, because for us, it was a very traumatic experience. It was a very good experience. It was a very powerful experience for me. It really shaped who I am today. It made me stronger and more resilient. But for sure, I wasn't ready for it, and Sam wasn't ready for it. And for us, maybe establishing this organization was a way for us to treat ourselves from this really bad, horrific experience. So we went back home and we established an organization called Humanity Crew. And at the beginning, we weren't sure what is it going to be about, what are we going to do exactly. But after I've said this story about Ahmad and what he has been through, then my son looked at me and said, okay, you know what? I was thinking that we should do medical support, because when I was on the shore, and he used to be a surgeon, he's a child psychiatrist, he used to be a surgeon, he was there on the shore supporting and providing medical support, emergency support to all of the refugees, to many refugees, and he didn't have equipment and he didn't have any supplies. If he would have saved much more, many more people. So he thought that this was supposed to be the thing we do. And then when I told him about the story of Ahmad, he was surprised. He said, for a second I thought I forgot I'm a child psychiatrist. I was dealing with the refugees only with their body, not with their soul. I forgot that they have a soul. I forgot that they have a mind. This boy that I probably saved, Ahmad, he saved him. He did a successful CPR. He came from the shore. He was pulled out of water by Proactiva. He was saved physically by Assam. But then you have a boy who's not functioning well, who's probably have maybe brain damage because of this very severe, very extreme trauma. And, if we weren't there for him, supporting him every day afterwards and months afterwards, he wouldn't be functioning. He will be really damaged by this huge trauma that happened to him. And he started explaining to me the psychological terms of what he's been through and how impactful that is for a young boy. And eventually we decided that this should be our focus, okay? Because we came from a community of refugees. We understood the needs, we understood the language, we were very easily able to connect with the refugees. And we said, okay, this is what we were going to do. So Humanity Crew is a mental health aid organization that prevents trauma with displaced children and their families through emergency psychological interventions and training. Now, we started with the Syrian refugees, for sure, because this is the need that we identified in the beginning. But we grew and we were working in many other places around the world today. But we focus our work and our support to the culture of the refugees, because we've seen firsthand the difference that it made when you're speaking the language of the refugees, when you're understanding the culture of the refugees. So mental health, why mental health is important? 20% of people who experience trauma will develop PTSD. This is not a question, this is a fact, this is statistics. And with children even more and even worse. And the consequences of such a severe trauma can be very different. So you can have PTSD, you can have sleep deprivation as a result. You cannot study well, your cognitive function will be less good. If you can study well, you cannot learn the local language. You cannot integrate in the local community, you cannot work properly. If you cannot work, you will probably go and steal stuff because you have to feed your children. If you're depressed and you're not feeling well, you will be, lying in the bed all day and not really doing anything to support yourself, not really working towards improving yourself and getting yourself to a good place. This is why mental health support is very, very important. If you're not mentally well, you can also, there's a huge gap in your soul. You can be easily recruited to terror, to crime, You can be addicted to alcohol and drug abuse because of your mental situation and your need to support yourself in what you can do. So mental health support is very critical, and it's very needed as soon as possible after the trauma. This is why we need to be there day zero and day one after the traumatic event. It's very important, because this way we're talking about prevention, okay? If we talk about years of, if we do the support years or months after, we're talking about treatment, which is a very long process. It's not always very effective, and it's very, very costly. So we decided to focus on the acute stages of the trauma, where we can intervene and do prevention of the escalation of their mental state. So how do we do this? We work in what we call the inverted pyramid method. So we start working in the community, okay? We support the entire community, and then from that community, we detect what are the cases that are relevant in each community that we need to deal with. So for example, we have a camp that we were working in Diavata camp in Thessaloniki in Greece, a camp of 4,000 people. Now, how do you, a small team of volunteers and professionals, you go in a camp of 4,000 people, how do you provide mental health support? Now, some of you, if you're not familiar with the context, you might think that, you know, you're just a psychologist sitting in a room, waiting for people to come to you. From our experience, it doesn't really work this way. If you want to support 4,000 people in this camp, you need to work differently. And this is how we decided to work this way. We went into the community, we did social activities, we did fun activities, we did cultural activities that grouped people together, because even though there were 4,000 people in the camp, most of them, they come from the similar region, or even if they came from different countries, they all come from the similar background, from the similar structure, similar struggles, sorry. They came from war, they've been through, they crossed the sea, they've been through the deals with the smugglers, they've all been through the same story. But what you see is people who are not communicating. Each and every one of them is living in their own problem. They're not communicating their problems to each other. They are hardly interacting. Everyone is doing his own thing. So we said, okay, we needed to create a community. Because in our communities, in our daily life, we have a network of support system. We have our friends, we have our families, our uncles, our grandparents, we have the people in our school, at our university. We have support system that help us when we feel down, when we fail exams, when we lose family members. But in this case, they are here alone. So it's very important to build this community, to rebuild this community, and to create it from the people that exist within the camp. And when we do that, we identify what are the problems that are concerning the refugees. In some camps, it may be that they have an excessive use of drugs and alcohol. So we tackle that problem. In other camps, there might be a high rate of domestic violence. In other camps, it could be more single women with children who are not knowing how to deal with the traumas of the children. So we identify what the problem is, and we do group support. This is an example of a group support we did for women. Here you can see Abu Nashat. One day he came to me and he asked for a chess set, because he wanted to play. He knows how to play very well. He used to play, he loves this, and he asked me to bring him a table. I said, you know what? I cannot bring you one, but I will bring you 20, and I will ask you to make a school for chess, to teach the children. And for him, it was, I think, the happiest day in his camp. You know, he was sitting in the camp, not doing anything. It was a time when the EU-Turkey deal happened in 2016, asking to return the refugees to Turkey. And at that time, the refugees who already have arrived to Greece were stuck for many, many months, more than a year sometimes, were stuck in the camps with no idea of the process that they were going to, and they were just sitting and waiting in the camps. And for him, he didn't have anything to do. He was depressed, he was sad, you know, for a man that used to work every day, that used to provide for his family, a man that probably was the sole provider for the family. He's the one that probably took the decision to leave the country, took the decision to go on the boat, took the decision to come here and then there's nothing here for him here. He's just sitting, he cannot work, he cannot bring food, he cannot do anything for his family, and he's sad, he's depressed. So this was one way that we could support the whole camp, okay? We brought him this chess, and for him, it was a fun activity to do. For the children, they would run every day for his class. So he was teaching kids, he was teaching teenagers and men how to play. And at the end, at some point, we did a tournament of them playing with each other. And it was a very fun activity. It distracted them from their traumas. It distracted them from the really horrific situation that they were living in. And this was part of an activity that we did to support them mentally. This is another activity that you see that for them in this specific camp, many of them were farmers, were people who like to work in the land. This is what they did before. So we brought them equipment, we brought them seeds, Palestinian seeds even, from things that, food that grows really fast and that they can take from the land and eat. And for them it was a really good activity that connected them back to the land. It gave them something to do every day, something to take care of. It gave them food eventually. And as I said, our speciality and our focus was mental health support. We don't, distribute food and clothes unless it's really needed. In this case, for example, we brought food that is traditional. They cooked it themselves and they make a fest for the entire camp. We also had educational activities for the purpose of collecting children together, educating them, but more important than education at that point, because it was a really transit period, it was giving them a framework, okay? It was making the parents go out of the camp every day at 8 o'clock, and they're not allowed to be late, bringing their children dressed well. They had to take care of having clothes from the camp, and taking them and bringing them to the school. It gave them a framework, it gave them a routine. These are the different activities. Here you can see an activity that we did recently in one of the refugee centers in Poland. So these are Ukrainian refugees that fled. And this is the work we do. Different projects for children, different projects for women. Until today, this is Humanity Crew's impact. We've directly impacted 20,500 displaced children and their families, directly provided them with mental health support, and impacted the lives of over 600,000 people. And in addition to that, we also train mental health professionals and volunteers. So far, we trained around 8,000 people. From our experience, it's very, very important to be trained on different things before you go and volunteer. If you are considering volunteering in refugee camps, please seek advice about being trained, because it's very important to take care of ourselves before we go and volunteer and help others. Because these situations, they are very hard. Sometimes you do things without even without intending, that can cause harm, especially when you work with children. We've seen many things in camps of people who are playing with kids, but they're not taking care of their kids' parents. And when we come to refugee camps, we don't want to replace the parents. Sometimes for the parents, it's easier, or it's convenient that we are, babysitting the kids. But the purpose is to bring the parent and help him bond with the kid, because for them also, the mothers, they are destroyed. They are sitting and they don't know what to do, how to provide for the children. They are really in their bubble of depression, and they need support to get out of there and do something with the children and take care of their own children. Because the children, if they are not taken care by their parents, and if they are replaced by us, the volunteers, it can cause a lot of damage for the children, a lot of attachment issues, and a lot of problems for their development. So it's very important, if you are considering, and I do encourage you to go out there and try to volunteer and support as much as you can, please do seek a proper training and understand what you are allowed and what you shouldn't do, and and how you need to interact, especially with children. So again, I show you this photo, and we are here today because of this award, which I'm very, very grateful for. And the Princess of Girona is doing a great, the Princess of Girona Foundation is doing a great work here in Spain supporting youth, building capacity of youth. This is something I wish I had growing up. So I encourage all of you to go in, check the programs of the foundation, participate in their programs, because it can really benefit you. It can really connect you to other people and really build your character. So if I have like one thing I want to tell you before I wrap up, and this is something that I also teach my kids, Alma and Relifan, this is the message that I want to give them when they grow up, is don't be led by your insecurities. We all remember our failures more than our successes, because it's just easier, you know. We have successes every day, we do many good things, we help people, we do well at work, but unfortunately we remember the bad things that happened to us, we remember the difficulties, we remember when we failed in this, we remember what we didn't get. And it's very important to look always on the bright side and be encouraged, be brave, stand out, be brave, do something. If you see a problem, do something about it. You know, if I was discouraged every time someone told me, like, why do you need this organization, or why do you need to study abroad, or, you know, don't be discouraged by it. Take it as a challenge, okay? Challenge yourself to be better, and you are not alone. This is the important thing. For me, Humanity Crew is not about me, okay? I started the organization, I manage the organization, but the incredible work that is done by our amazing staff and the over 400 volunteers that join our mission until today. They are the ones who's doing everything. So really, you're not alone. If you have a passion for something, look for people who can support you, look for people who have similar ideas, and these are the people you need to be to have around you. So with this, I wrap my talk. Please feel free to stay in touch. I will put on the screen my email and the website of the foundation, the Humanity Crew organization. Please feel free to follow us on social media to learn more. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for the Princess of Girona Foundation for allowing me to be here and giving me this opportunity.